And the president is making more headlines tonight with a move he made at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The agency is supposed to be above politics, but tonight it's at the center of a big political fight over who will be its next director. Late today, the president called the agency, quote, a total disaster. Morgan Radford has that story.
Just hours after the agency's first director, Richard Cordray, stepped down on Friday, he promoted his chief of staff to a position that would put her in charge. But then President Trump fired back with his own appointment, saying Mick Mulvaney, the White House budget director, would oversee things, setting off a political firestorm. Mulvaney previously called the organization a sick, sad joke.
Some of us like to get rid of it because we don't like the idea of there being a non-accountable federal agency, which sets a terrible precedent.
His now rival, Leandra English, was there at the beginning, when liberal members of Congress like Elizabeth Warren created the agency in 2010 to protect against the illegal activity of big banks they say contributed to the 2008 financial crisis. The agency says it has returned billions to consumers and worked to simplify mortgages and other financial products.
We're making the home buying process easier, and we've made it safer for people to send money to friends and family abroad.
The agency has little congressional oversight and is independently funded through the Federal Reserve.
Is this agency isolated completely from Congress?
Well, they're funded by the Fed. So Congress, Republican Congress, certainly doesn't like that. So there's a lot of consumers and consumer groups concerned about how we're going to protect the average American.
By law, the deputy director serves as acting director until a permanent leader is named. The question come Monday, who will that leader be?
So during a call with reporters today, the White House said they're trying to avoid a legal battle with former director Richard Cordray, but they believe he's trying to provoke one. And when it comes to Monday, it looks like both appointees will show up at the office ready to report for duty, Kate.
All right, Morgan Radford, thank you.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.